Welcome to New in the Mail, the series that will touch both your passion for electronics and your bank account at the same time. We have a selection of different items received in this mailbag, but I'm gonna start with this rather big development board, which is based on the STM32F407 microcontroller. And this particular MCU has 512K of flash memory and 192K of RAM, which should be enough to cover most needs. What I like about this development board is that it comes loaded with peripheral interfaces like CAN bus, RS-232, RS-485, it has Ethernet, USB, SD card, and a bunch of IOs that you can use. So you can pretty much build any project you can think of based on this development board. And I'm particularly interested in the CAN interfaces, so I'm planning to have a play with those. Well, this product might be available from different sellers at different prices. There might even be different variations on this board. I will place a link in the description to the seller where I got mine because it was the only one that offered a support pack for the board, which contains schematics, documentation, example code. It even contains like a bundle of Kale compiler with a keygen, which of course we're not going to use, that would be illegal, but you get the point. This seller will offer you a download link for this pack, which is like 1.7 gigabytes worth of documentation, so I highly recommend it because I did some research before ordering and asked a bunch of different sellers, and they were only providing in like some Gerber files or some pictures of the Gerber files, and in my opinion those are not enough documentation for a development board. Now, after developing my code on this dev board, I will likely design my own custom smaller PCB for holding just the stuff that I need in my project, and I will be using PCBWay.com to order those PCBs, which I highly recommend you try. They offer professional PCBs manufactured at affordable pricing with fast turnaround times. They also offer complete turnkey solutions where they handle everything from sourcing the parts to assembling and testing your boards before shipping, so you can get them fully assembled. Check out their website linked below. Next up, I have yet another STM32 development board, and this one is based on the STM32F401 microcontroller with 512 KB of flash and 96 KB of RAM. It's just a simple dev board with no peripherals, just the I/O brought up to 0.1 inch header pins. There's a few switches, there's a USB Type-C connector, and there's also this 8-pin SOIC footprint on the bottom. Maybe that can be used for connecting like an external EEPROM. This was pretty cheap, about $3, so I decided to get one just to keep around in my box of development boards. This particular seller where I got it also offers the same board equipped with a 411 micro, which has a bit more RAM, so check out those options if you need them. My next item is a serial to RS-485 adapter board or transceiver, so you would connect on the left side to your microcontroller talking UART and on the right side to some peripheral talking RS-485. This is just one of the different models that you can find online. You can probably get any other model and it will fulfill the same task. However, it's good to have one of these around, no matter the model, if you think you're ever going to interface something like an RS-485 bus. These are pretty cheap, so it's worth keeping one around. For example, with one of these and the previously shown STM32 development board, you're set for talking on the RS-485 bus, so check out the links for these in the description. Next, I have this small DC to DC converter, and this is a boost type model with an input of 1 to 5 volts and an output of 5 volts 1 amp. So this is a type of module that you would connect to a single cell LiPo, for example, to get a 5 volt output. I like having these small building blocks in my toolkit because I often get an idea and I want to test it out, and these come in handy for prototypes. I was working on the design of a product which works with a single cell lithium battery, and I need a 5 volt rail as the main input to the circuit. These are not going to be very efficient or very reliable. They claim 96% efficiency, but I wouldn't expect anything special from these modules, but they will allow you to test your circuit and validate the idea, and later on you can just roll your own boost converter with a better chip and a better circuit around it. Next, I have a set of 100 pieces Pogo pins, and I'm pretty sure most of you heard of these before. They are these spring-loaded test pins, and they come in a variety of sizes and shapes. These are P75-E2, and that means they are 1.3 millimeters thick with 16.5 millimeters long. So these are pretty thick and long Pogo pins. They would probably work best for fitting onto 0.1 inch spaced test points, so you could use them to build like a programming jig to flash a bunch of your boards by quickly pressing it onto the target board, and also by being slightly thicker they would handle the mechanical stuff better long term. These are fairly cheap, they are available everywhere, but as always, don't expect the same level of quality from these cheap Pogo pins when compared to something which is maybe 10 times more expensive coming from a big connector manufacturer from a when they're purchased from a reputable distributor. But for DIY and prototype work, these would do the job just fine. Next up, I have a couple of sets of these quick release toggle clamps, and if you've ever built like a testing jig, you probably have seen these before. They have an interesting mechanism in here. This is a hinge mechanism which allows the clamp to latch when it's closed, so it doesn't come undone. These are probably one of the smallest ones you can find. The part number for these is GH201A, but you can also get bigger ones if you need them. And the way this rubber thing screws in here, I assume is designed this way so that you could maybe adjust the height from these two nuts in here. The idea is to have this attached to some kind of testing base where you have the Pogo pins that I showed earlier sticking up, and then maybe you come with the board that you want to test and place it on top of the Pogo pins. Then you have this pressing down on the board to keep those Pogo pins in good contact with the board which is under testing. I want to experiment with this type of setup, and so I just got a few of these sets. I noticed they are not very precise. Like I can see there is quite a bit of play in the hinge mechanism in here, so this slack that we notice here would have to be compensated somewhere else, like in the Pogo pin springs. But I'm also assuming you can get some higher quality ones which are a tighter fit with no slack in the hinge. Next, I got a bunch of different styles of these SMD adapter boards. And these are not only useful when you try to breadboard stuff and you use some small SMD components, but also if you're experimenting with a few different variations of an IC or layout, you would link one of these test boards to your main board with wires, and then you can bodge a number of different chips on here to this breakout board instead of soldering and desoldering repeatedly on your main board, which could damage the PCB or something surrounding that area. So I was running out on this, so I restocked with a few different options. I highly recommend you keep some of these in your toolkit. I'm pretty sure they will come in handy someday. Next up, this is a random find. This chip with part number ETA6002 is a power path management type chip which features a DC to DC LiPo charging circuit for a single cell, but can also manage the power path between the input and the output, so that when the battery is charged it can connect the DC to DC regulated voltage to your system. So that helps bypass the battery. So this can be really useful because once the battery is charged, it's disconnected, and the chip is putting out voltage to the system from its input rather than draining the battery. I think I discovered this in the teardown of the Handtech LCR meter, and I think it's pretty useful to have something like this. I'm sure there are people who build battery-powered projects and wanted to have this functionality. Unfortunately, the only source I could find to buy this chip is AliExpress, so you know, chips from AliExpress are not always what you expect, but hopefully this kind of chips will become available from other suppliers as well. This is the soldering tip refresh paste that I have been using for the past couple of years. It's the Mechanic MCN8S, and you know, I like Mechanic brand products. I also use their solder paste, solder wire, solder braid, and they work great. This tip refresher paste has also worked great for me and my T12 type Heiko tips, but I wanted to get a spare one, and to my surprise the new one came with a different label. But it still contains the typo in lead free. Instead of lead free, it says lead fur. Yeah, so you'd think they would correct that, but no. As an improvement, this new one also comes with a small instruction sheet, and this is where I learned that it's a particular temperature where this paste is most effective, and the tip temperature should be between 300 and 360 degrees Celsius for this to work as best as it can. In any case, this is good, it works. It's cheaper than the brand name stuff like Weller or Heiko, so get yourself one of these, you will like it. It will make your soldering tips much nicer. Because most solder paste and fluxes in a syringe come without a plunger, I also ordered myself one of these aluminium made plungers from Mechanic, and it seems like a good idea to have this reusable plunger made from aluminium. Because if you think about it, even if this gets dirty and sticky from solder paste or flux, you can always clean it with some IPA and it will be like new. It's really nicely built. I don't know why they made these from separate pieces which screw together. You can unscrew the top and bottom ends, but to me it seems obvious to make it from like a single piece, but then they would have no weight of sliding this in there, so they had to go with this type of construction, which I'm pretty sure increases the cost of production. But this will work with the standard paste syringes that you find on Mechanic products and also others like Amtech. And what's nice is that this ring will lock into the end of the solder paste syringe, and you then have this really ergonomic handle that you can push to work with this paste. And I think I'm gonna get myself a second one. I really like how this works, and I'm sure I need a second one to keep like permanently on my flux syringe, so I'm gonna order another one, and the link is in the description. Next, I got myself a couple of these EVA carry cases, and if you don't know what EVA stands for, it's ethylene vinyl acetate, and in general you would find these under the EVA carry case name, although I'm not sure all of them are built from EVA, but you can find these pretty cheap on AliExpress, and I think they're great for the electronics lab. Take for example this black one, it could easily carry and protect at the same time a multimeter or like a selection of tools that you can put in here, and you can keep it nice and organized, ready to take with you on a remote job. You can just throw this into a tool bag, or it could just as well be like a survival kit with some fire starting tools, a knife, stuff like that you can put in here, and you can throw this into your backpack when you go camping or hiking. I got the red one specifically for building like a custom first aid kit with some of the stuff I think would be helpful to have in here, and for that purpose I also got some of the next items, which is this one is a compressed puck towel. This is 30 by 30 centimeters towel, which is pressed into this compact puck, and funny enough this one has the price on it, so it's 8 RMB, and actually that's pretty much what I paid plus some shipping. These are some nice towels to keep into one of these kits. These are some disposable cotton swabs with iodine, and I think they're pretty nice to carry in a first aid kit, because you just open one up, let's say you got a scratch or something like that, you just put pressure on the end marked with a red stripe, which breaks the capsule inside and starts releasing the iodine, and that slowly drips into the cotton swab. And I also got one of these emergency foil blankets that will go into my first aid kit. That was all for today. Thank you for watching. As always, links for all of these items will be placed in the description below. These are affiliate links, so if you make a purchase, I will earn a percentage of that, which supports the channel. And also I will link on screen a playlist with all of my other mailbag videos if you'd like to watch it. I would appreciate your feedback in the comments. Let me know if you found something useful to order in this video, and I'll see you next time.